Hello everyone, my name is Qualitron and I want to welcome you to the first episode of my horror series called Stories Beyond the Veil. The first story is called Between the Cracks. Please enjoy. It's quiet here, unnaturally quiet. The kind of quiet that sits heavily on your chest, like a weight pressing down, as if even the air knows something's wrong. I wasn't looking for this. I didn't come here to seek peace or some kind of sanctuary. I just wanted to disappear. I thought it would be easy, finding a place with no people, no distractions, no noise. The job was simple enough. Security guard for an abandoned industrial site. No visitors, no customers. Just me and the hours stretching out, one after the other, with nothing to fill them except the hum of machines long since turned off. But the town, this place, I didn't realize it was already empty even before I arrived. There's something about it, something that creeps under your skin. When I first drove in, the road was long and winding, barely wide enough for my car to pass through. The trees, tall, dark things, lined the path, their twisted branches casting long shadows that seemed to stretch across the road as if reaching for me. The town itself looks like it's been abandoned for years, maybe even decades. Old houses with faded paint, cracked windows, lawns overtaken by weeds that no one bothered to tend. And yet, there are people here. Not many, but enough to give the town a near feeling of being half forgotten. You see them sometimes, walking along the road, their faces blank and distant, as if they've long lost any reason to be anywhere. I should have left then, but I stayed. I told myself I need this job, that it was just temporary. I needed to block out the noise of my life, and this quiet town was just what I needed to slip away. But the more I stay, the more I wonder if I'm already sleeping. They say the air here is different, thick with something ancient. Maybe it's just the isolation, but it feels like the ground beneath my feet is somehow not quite solid. And the town, there's something wrong with the way it holds itself together. Things don't add up. I walk down streets and it feels like the houses aren't really there. They're just cells, hollowed out memories of what was once real. I walk the streets now, more times than I care to count, and each time the town feels quieter. Not just the lack of noise, but the absence of it. Like there's something missing. A person, a sound, a presence. Something I should be able to touch, but can't. But this isn't about the town. This is about me. I didn't realize it at first, but I've been changing since I got here. It's small at first, just a thought that doesn't quite fit. A moment when you think you've seen something out of the corner of your eye, but when you turn, there's something there. It's the way people look at me, like they don't know me, even though they should. Or like they're not really seeing me at all. I thought it was just my mind playing tricks, but now I'm not so sure. Something's wrong. Something's always been wrong. And I'm starting to think that the longer I stay, the more the town will forget me too. It's the small things that start to add up. At first, you think it's nothing, just your mind overactive, pulling at straws. But it's been happening more and more, this creeping sense that something's wrong. I spent the first week on patrol, walking the same long halls of the industrial site, checking the security cameras, making sure everything was as it should be, empty, silent. But then I noticed the footage. I don't know why I checked it that night. It wasn't part of my usual routine, but something made me look. The camera feeds were fine, just as they always were, grainy, static filled. But then I saw it, a door, right there in the hallway. A door that wasn't supposed to be there. I paused the footage and rewound it, replayed it again and again, trying to find the moment when the door appeared, but it was never there. At least not when I was walking down the hall, not when I checked the cameras earlier. I thought maybe I was just seeing things, a trick of the light, something my tired mind had conjured in the silence of the night. But no matter how many times I rewound the footage, it didn't change. The door was there. A thin wooden door with an old brass handle, no markings, no signs, just a door standing by itself in the middle of the hallway. I went back to the hallway. The air felt colder than it had before, as if something was watching me, as if something was waiting for me to find that door. I reached out to turn the handle but stopped myself. I shouldn't have opened it, but I did. I turned the knob slowly, feeling the cold metal beneath my fingers. The door creaked open, and a gust of stale, damp air rushed out, making me cough. The room behind it was dark, but there was something in there. I could feel it. The walls were coated with thick dust, and the floor was uneven. I couldn't make out what the room was, not at first. The faintest light came through a crack in the ceiling, casting long shadows across the floor. But I wasn't alone. Someone or something was in the room with me. I could feel it. I stepped back, heart pounding in my chest. There was nothing to see, nothing to touch, nothing to explain the feeling of being watched. But I didn't stay to find out. I closed the door quickly, my pulse racing, the metallic taste of fear heavy in my mouth. When I went back to the security room, I checked the footage again. The door was gone. The hallway was empty, as it had always been. I was losing my mind. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe the door had always been there, just hidden from the camera angle. Maybe it was some trick of the light. But deep down, I knew. I knew it wasn't the camera. It wasn't my mind. The town was starting to bleed into the fabric of reality. I tried to ignore it. Really, I did. But I couldn't shake the feeling. The jaw, the camera footage. It didn't sit right with me. There was something there. Something I hadn't seen yet. The longer I stayed, the stranger the town felt. It wasn't just the sight, the people too. There were little things that started happening. The cashier at the general store had a look in her eye when I paid. She didn't smile, she didn't speak, just stared at me for a moment longer than was comfortable before she handed me my change. It wasn't the look itself, it was the feeling behind it, like she was looking through me, like she didn't really see me at all. And it wasn't just her, it was everyone. The way they moved, the way they spoke. I'd ask questions about the town, about its history, but I couldn't get straight answers. Everything felt displaced, like time itself was out of sync here. It was as though the town existed just out of reach, half formed, that it had been built on a foundation of sand. And I was beginning to think that maybe I wasn't meant to be here. Maybe I wasn't supposed to see what I was starting to see. I couldn't help myself. I had to find out more. I started digging. I found old maps of the site, old documents that had been tucked away in dusty cabinets. There were references to something in the town's past, something hidden in the foundation of the buildings, but none of it made sense. The more I tried to learn, the more I realized there were gaps, pieces missing, names erased. It was like the town had a memory of its own, a memory that wasn't mine. I couldn't stop. I couldn't walk away. The door, the strange things I have seen, it was all connected. But the more I tried to understand, the more it felt like the town itself was pulling me in, trying to make me part of its strange, fractured world. I wasn't sure what would happen if I stayed in longer, but I wasn't sure I could leave either. I couldn't stop thinking about that door. The way it had just appeared out of nowhere. The way it felt like something was calling me to it. It wasn't just the door. It was everything. The town. The people. There was something about them that was wrong. Something I couldn't place. It was like they weren't completely here. Like they were just echoes of something else. I decided to take a walk through the town. I needed to clear my head, to shake off the feeling that I was losing control. But as I walked, the more I looked around, the more it felt like the town was shifting. I passed by the old diner, the one with the faded sign hanging crookedly above the door. The windows were clouded with dust, and the door creaked as I pushed it open. Inside, everything was frozen in time. The booths were empty, the plates and mugs still stacked neatly on the counter, as if someone had just stepped out for a moment. But there was something strange about it. The silence wasn't just empty, it was dead. I stood there for a moment, feeling the weight of the silence pressing down on me. It was like I was the only person left in the world. I thought I heard something in the back, some muffled movement. I wasn't sure if it was just the wind or something else, but I didn't want to find out. I turned and left. The streets outside were no better. The town looked abandoned, yet there were signs of life. Just enough to keep me wondering who or what was still here. I asked a few locals about the diner. They looked at me like I was crazy. "There's no diner," one of them said. "You must be thinking of something else." But it was right there. I had just been inside it. The more I spoke to the people, the more I realized that nothing made sense anymore. There were whole streets I couldn't remember walking down, buildings that didn't seem to exist when I turned my head. It was like the town itself was forgetting what it was, or maybe it was forgetting me. The worst part of it all was the nights. That was when the true horror set in. I'd go back to the security room, alone, sitting in front of the monitors, watching the footage. That's when I saw it again. The door. It had appeared in the footage once more, and this time it wasn't just standing there. It was open. I couldn't explain it. I had checked it earlier. The hallway had been empty. Now the door was wide open, like something or someone had been through it. I tried to convince myself it was just a glitch in the system, mistake, but the more I stared at it, the more I knew it was something else, something deliberate. I got up from my chair, my legs trembling beneath me. The hallways felt like they were closing in, the silence growing thicker. I knew what I had to do. I had to go back. I reached the hallway. The door was still there, but it was different now. This time, there was something behind it. I could feel it in my bones, a deep resonating hum that seemed to come from within the walls themselves. It wasn't just the room behind the door, it was everything. The whole building, the town. It was alive in a way that I couldn't understand. I reached for the door. My hand shook as I turned the handle again. The air was thick, charged with something I couldn't explain. A faint metallic taste lingered in my mouth. I opened the door. This time, the room behind it was no longer empty. It was alive. There was something in there, something moving, shifting, pressing against the walls like it was trying to escape. The sound was like an old machine struggling to turn over, but there was something more primal about it. It felt ancient. I stumbled back, a cold sweat breaking across my forehead. I wanted to close the door, to lock it away and never think about it again, but I couldn't. I couldn't pull myself away. There was something calling me, pulling me closer, and I knew, deep down, that this was where the answers were. But as I reached towards the door again, the sound stopped. Silence. The room was empty once more. I couldn't understand what I was seeing. I couldn't make sense of it anymore. I kept thinking I was losing my grip on reality, but the more I tried to leave, the more it felt like the town wouldn't let me. I wasn't sure how long I had been here, how many days or weeks had passed. Time itself seemed to stretch and distort, like I was moving in circles. But I knew one thing for sure. The town was feeding on me. It was drawing me in piece by piece, and the longer I stayed, the more I felt it slipping away. I wasn't just losing myself, I was becoming part of the town. The people, if you could even call them that, were slowly becoming more like shadows, empty, hollow figures. Their voices were becoming indistinct, like they were speaking from a distance. And then there was a hum. It started out faint, just a low vibration that I could barely hear, but now it was everywhere. In the walls, the air, even the ground beneath my feet. It was all connected. And I was part of it. I tried to live again, but the moment I stepped out of the building, the road ahead of me seemed to shift. The town stretched and warped, pulling me back in. The path I had taken to get here, the one that led to the real world, was gone. I was trapped. And now, I can't even tell if I'm still alive. I don't know how long I've been here. I tried to mark the days, to keep track of time, but time doesn't work the same way anymore. I look at my watch, and the hands will be spinning too fast, then too slow, or worse, they'll stop entirely, frozen at some meaningless hour. I don't sleep, not really. When I close my eyes, I see things. The town stretches out in ways it shouldn't. The streets are winding into impossible shapes. I wake up in places I don't remember walking to. Sometimes I hear voices murmuring just outside my door, whispering things I can't quite understand. And the worst part? I'm starting to recognize them. There are no mirrors in this town. None that saw reflection anyway. The one in my bathroom is just blank. It's not that it's broken or covered in dust, it's just empty. When I stand in front of it, there's nothing there. No reflection, no shadow, nothing. I smashed it yesterday. When the shards hit the floor, they still didn't show me, but they showed something else. Something that looked almost like me. I can feel it now. Something beneath the surface, shifting, stretching its way through the town like veins under paper-thin skin. The people, what's left of them, have started watching me differently. It's not fear in their eyes, not confusion, it's recognition. Like they know something I don't. Or maybe like they remember me. The ham is everywhere now. It's in the walls, it's in the ground, it's in me. I tried to walk out of town again today, but I swear, no matter which way I turned, I just kept walking back into the center of it. The roads looped, the buildings stretched. The worst part? I don't think it was the town that changed. I think I did. I can't remember my name anymore. I mean, I know it. It's right there at the edge of my mind. Elias Ward. That's me. That's who I am. But every time I try to say it out loud, it sounds wrong. Like it belongs to someone else. Like it's an old suit I've outgrown, stiff and ill-fitting. Maybe I never really was Elias Ward. Maybe I was always something else. I found the door again. It was waiting for me, right where it always should have been. I don't know why I ever thought it disappeared. It never did. It was just waiting. And now, I think I know what's behind it. I think it's me. The version of me that existed before I came here. Before I started to change. The version of me that still belongs to somewhere else. I could open it. I could step through. But I don't think I will. Because the truth is, I don't know if I want to live anymore.